Welcome to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.net. Of course, I'm your host, Connie Whitman, and thanks for joining us this week. So since the show is all about change, of course, I know sometimes we have to shift our mindset a little bit to be able to embrace and allow change so that we could come through the other side, which is absolutely where the magic happens. So to help you on that journey, of course, I have a free gift for you. It's my free communication style assessment, which you get 2 reports. One tells you about your superpowers and how you naturally show up in the world, and we want to embrace that. I also share a report about your lowest style and the one that probably is the hardest for you to communicate with. So how are you showing up there? My reports will fill you in and give you some insight. So go to whitmanassociates.com/CSA for communication style assessment. Now, my quote today is by, wait for it, the very fun Dr. Seuss. And Dr. Seuss says, "Oh, the places you'll go. You'll have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose." So as a kid, I remember going to Barnes & Noble to buy our summer reading books for whatever that next academic year was. And as I reflect on those just fond memories, I can feel the excitement. As my mom said, we're going to Barnes & Noble. So for me, that feeling of walking in to this huge bookstore, you guys know the smell of the paper and the print, right? That the books were printed on, and the exploration of which books to choose to help start that summer adventure, right, that we were going to take through the books. Well, there was always a selection. I think it was about a dozen books, and we had to choose between 5 and 6. And I'd love for you to just take a moment to set up our interview for today and reflect on your summer reading, the feeling it evoked for you, the memories, good or bad. My kids would say bad. For me, the reflection feels just really nice and allows me to pause and be a kid, maybe for just a few minutes. And it really does feel so good. So of course you're thinking, who is this guest? Who is this guest that Connie is setting up? Well, it's my amazing, creative, wonderful friend of probably about 30 years, Joanne Nocera. Now, Joanne is an educational leader, creativity enthusiast, and author with over 2 decades of experience helping children reach their highest learning potential and teaching parents, probably more importantly, strategies to greater assist in the progress. In short, Jo helps children to be seen, heard, and understood. So Joanne has worked to change the culture of schools and provide families tools for their home life to help kids succeed academically as well as emotionally. She spent years researching and developing techniques in the areas of reading, math, science, differentiated instruction, time management, and this one I think is such an important one for our kids, social emotional learning, and has proven successful in helping students in all facets of education. Now, her forthcoming children's book, I'm so excited for her, is called Catherine Grace, and it's due out fall of 2021. So future listeners, you will still be able to get this book. My Crayons with Companion Planner, Give Me Back My Creativity, are available also where books are sold. Jo and I have already done a show on that one. Please help me welcome my amazing, awesome friend Joanne to the show. Jo, thanks for being on.
Hi, Connie. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes,
I'm so excited.
I know, I'm excited just because I love your energy and I love the new book, and I am, as a friend, right, and a fellow author, I'm just so proud of you. So I just have to say that out of the gate. Yes, and I was giggling. I don't know, you have 2 boys also. Remember when the summer reading came out? My kids dreaded it. How I loved it. They dreaded it. How about your boys? Did they love it?
They did dread it. In fact, yeah. They would go from a list of, the school would provide a list of 20 books, and they would look to see how thin the book was. That's what they were going for. The thinnest book possible, Mom, because I really don't want to spend a lot of time reading.
Yeah, that were my boys too. Maybe it's a boy thing. So girls, weigh in on this. Please send us messages. We'd love to hear. All right. So again, Joanne was on my show with a previous book, which was all about creativity and bringing creativity both home as well as using it with your kids and just to keep life interesting. Now, you wrote another book. It's a children's book. Why pivot? What's with the children's book this time around for you?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, it was a lifelong dream. I've been writing children's stories, manuscripts, their all in the files in my office at home. And I've been an elementary school educator for many years. Now I'm an administrator, but love story time. Absolutely loved it. Would bring in the puppets and anything I can find. Love to tell stories. And so I really thought about, I had written a manuscript, which was Catherine Grace and the Creative Spirit. And when I presented it to my publisher, she said, Joanne, your book, Give Me Back My Crayons is 10 Keys to Unlocking the Creative Child Within. What if you took Catherine Grace and helped parents, while they were reading the adult book, have their child read Catherine Grace Unlocks the Keys and kind of match those 10 keys, those 10. And so I said, oh, of course, my mind was exploding. And I broke down the 10 keys and put it into words and beautiful, passages. And at the end, there's even a fable. But the point is that the book is like an intro. So even though Catherine Grace and the Creative Spirit is still out there, and that manuscript and that book will be published, as well as many others, I'll talk about that later, but it totally aligns with each other so that the parent and the child could both talk about the same thing together.
And that's the joy, right? That's the magic, I think, Joanne. I know, like my kids, they hated reading. So every summer I read the books with them so we could have these great dynamic conversations, share my perspective, have them share their perspective. So we made it more of a game. Who could read it fastest? How many chapters did you? Because my kids are competitive. Joanne knows my kids. They're competitive, right? I'm thinking, how can we make this fun?
Idea.
It is a great idea, right? So, but you have to know your kids. So I love your publisher's idea of melding the two books. And everybody, you have to read the first book, Give Me Back My Crayons. Again, any parent that has kids, especially if they hate reading, trouble learning, these books can be really life-altering for you and create that joy that we want when we read a book or when we pick up a book. And parents, we really can help with that as well. What do you want? So I love the concept of partnering with the parent. Cool, right? What do you want kids to learn after reading these books?
So Catherine Grace is, the main character. Obviously, she's not graceful, right? She is not your typical girl either, and she loves to explore. She absolutely loves nature, and so I think what I want Catherine Grace to model is for children is that they need to step out and look around them and really be aware, start to use their imagination, be curious. Throughout the book, she's curious, and her friends, find things in nature and they start to become makers. And that's a really huge concept with me, because I think when kids involve themselves and they get their hands dirty, they're going to build, they're going to explore, they're going to take that risk and that chance. And maybe they have to rebuild it again. Maybe something failed along the way, but they're having a sense of innovation when that is happening. And I love the STEM and in the schools and in the libraries of today. We've added the A in it to make it STEAM. So the arts is inside of it all. And STEM, for those of you who don't know, it's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so throughout the book, she really does show them how to use that. Throughout, and even in my Give Me Back My Crayons. So after each chapter, there are creative cues. Like, so when a parent doesn't know how to be creative with their child, or just to be in the moments, whether it's meditation, journaling, an art form, or whatever, there are ideas. So it's not like I'm not helping the parent along the way. I always want to support and scaffold both the parent and the child.
And that, you know what, learning, isn't it important for the parent to be present, but for the kids that really, maybe like you, my one son, right, he struggled academically and he ended up flourishing because our school system in Holmdel was just stupendous at that. But had I not partnered with the school and with my son, it would have been a whole different game changer, right? And I know it was the same for you with one of your sons. So that partnership that you're teaching, and you've always taught that, though, even when you were a teacher, right? You were ranked the #1 teacher of the year, but you really included the parent in that whole learning process. And I think that's beautiful. And now that you've created this book for the kids, plus the book for the adults, just again another great resource
great
and tool.
match.
Yeah,
It's a great a blending of the two. Even as an administrator now, which I am in the school districts here in New Jersey, I created a parent academy. So picture
I love
3-4 years ago when we couldn't get the parents involved, we found a way to not only feed them. They didn't have to worry about dinner. They came and we provided sessions where they came and learned together with their child, whether it was the platform for the online new mathematics program, whether it was reading night. We had family fitness night. We had the head of the cafeteria cooking up some stuff with recipes. We had kids yoga. What I'm saying is we've got to educate the whole child. It's not just, well, we're coming in and we're going to learn about test strategies and we're going to beat the SAT, or it's really about the whole child. Do you know how your child learns? On page 40 of my book, Give Me Back My Crayons, if you don't know how your child learns, you can find out. Take a survey with them and then continue that learning process. And it's just really important.
You know what I love about you, Joe, and I mean, again, we've been friends for such a long time. Our kids were friends. It made it easy. But you're my people in that you really care about education. And you said something real important. I hope everybody's listening, and I hope this evokes you to go out and buy Joanne's books for just this reason. The way she talked about learning, it wasn't just about let me teach you how to take a test. It was that love of learning. So we build kids that have a curiosity that even post-graduation, whether it's high school, college, even if they do a trade, that they build that curiosity of learning and staying relevant and whatever that means for them as adults. So I really hope you heard Joanne say that, right? It's really for the love of learning and building that curiosity for yourself too, perhaps. So think about that. If you are not a lifelong learner in your own world and you kind of just work in kids, what should you or what could you become curious about that might evoke a whole new level of enthusiasm and drive and excitement for you even as an adult? So I challenge you with that one. I'm so curious. How did you create the character?
Well,
is she you?
I think she is. I guess subliminally, I when I was writing it, I was like, wait a minute. I was like this little tomboy, and I wasn't in pretty dresses and fancy shoes, or I was right in there, building forts in the woods with my friends and collecting any kind of things I could. But I think she reminds me of so many young kids today that are craving to be who they need to be. And so the cover is her pointing in the mirror. And the reason I chose that for the cover is because just be you. We're hesitant. Kids are trying to fit in so bad that they're giving up who they are. And so we really have to help them be sure, hey, listen, I'm okay with who I am. Even if my socks don't match, like she has on the cover, her socks don't match. She's in these big, clunky shoes, or, one bow's in one hair and it's all disheveled. It's okay. We don't need to be so manicured as a young girl living in today's world. At a young age, let them explore, let them be using their imagination and get to the heart of maybe they want to build. I know that in Disney they have this Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo boutique, right? Well, I think there needs to be a boutique where instead of a boutique, you go in, you make things, you build things, you construct things. How about that? You never know. And that could be with clay, Play-Doh. It could be with Legos. It just doesn't have to end and be so uniform and fit in a box. It could really expand out. And I think Catherine Grace and her friends do that for the kids. They see themselves in those characters. So hoping.
And Joe, you are the perfect guest for my show, because I want thought leaders out there who are shaking the crap out of things so that we could start looking at things with a broader perspective. And everything you've just said is not about being right or wrong or good or bad and judging. It's about just being, whatever that means. And unfortunately, and I know, Joe, you see this too, right? The social media, the media in general, it's polarizing. And Joanne and I are both in New Jersey in the United States, right? So the social media and media, our television, is polarizing this nation. So instead of coming together from a curious, expansive, hey, what are you thinking? I didn't see that perspective. I love that. I don't like Play-Doh, but I love the building blocks. Or, well, I like doing makeup. Or I like, taking a hammer and pounding a nail and creating something. We're not allowing that expansive perspective from a young age. So how can we expect kids to grow into adults and kids where we have this expansive perspective that we then can live and expand as adults? And the other thing you said, which is just so freaking important, is the judgment of social media. Again, you said stop the pointing in the mirror of just be you, right? Just be you and love it. We're not allowed to love ourselves because of the comparaphobia on social media. And it's even worse for these young people coming up, both girls and boys, of fitting in those boxes to be included. So the book, I hope, is a resource to kind of stop the madness, right?
It is, yeah, 100%. And you need to let their light shine. They're so afraid. Like, what if no one likes what I've just said, or maybe someone doesn't approve of my thoughts, or what I'm imagining. Then we'll never know what the world could be if we shut that down. Yeah. Or if we take control and say, oh, no, honey, it doesn't go here, it goes here. See, this is what this should look like. We have to pause for a moment and interfere when we need to, when there are safety concerns, for sure. But right now, you never know what could be created. So you've got to let them be okay. And not be so judgmental. So when you create an environment, a classroom that's free of judgment, where kids could really express their thoughts and their feelings, going back to the social emotional learning, there's 3 umbrellas that kids exist under: the social, do I fit in? Or the emotion, I've been traumatized, I don't really know how I'm feeling. Can you help me to identify my feelings? And then I need to resolve that or come up with strategies to help myself get through so I could reach my goals as a young kid, even a middle school kid, a high school kid. It doesn't matter what age. I mean, we're talking about Play-Doh, but how about if you have a middle school kid and wants to know, what microorganisms live in the pond in my local area? I know I used to take the pond water and we used to put it under a microscope. I mean, they have all these wonderful things. And if you don't have the money, it's okay. You can go to the library and take out books. So when you go to the beach with your child and they're discovering a shell, or they're discovering a certain seaweed that's floating, they have these wonderful field guides that are free. If you have a library card, you just take it out, you take it along with you, and let's find it. Let's find the tree when we're taking a walk or a hike through those woods. There's endless possibilities. I provide it all in the book. Give Me Back My Crayons. Catherine Grace is certainly not going to stop here. There's going to be more books written, more stories that take you on that adventure and then build that creativity. There's going to be creativity kits, and you can subscribe to, getting your child every month subscription to creativity kits. That's in the works. But I don't want the learning to stop. I don't want the curiosity to stop. I want to kids to know they can get away from that book and go out on their own and there's even QR codes in the back of the book. Why? Because there's certain scenes in the story that take place in a reservoir or take place along the ocean of New Jersey, the shoreline. And I want kids to know about that. There's a YouTube video that connects them, sculptures that they can make with driftwood. Could you imagine, here's a piece of driftwood. Can you make it into something? If you had a couple of them, what would that look like? Could you paint it? Can you hot glue things to it? I mean, let's get their imagination going. And for the scientists, let's scrape it off and see what we find under a microscope. Let's just see. You never.
Let's
You
just
just never.
see that. Let's just see.
Let's
What a
just see.
great, that's a catchphrase. I think you have to make mugs. Let's just see, right? Let's explore. Here's the other thing, and as a working mom, and then my kids were babies when I started my business, 20 years ago, Joe, and you know me pretty well.
Yep.
I'm pretty driven, right? So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
bet there are a lot of women out there that are like me, that you are natural, because you're a natural teacher, right? That was your chosen profession. That was your calling, really. When I see you, you are what a teacher should exemplify. You are the poster child in my mind, right? So it's a calling. I do believe teaching is a calling, and you are, honoring that calling. So for me, like all the thing, like the shell, a lot of time I'm like, they pick up the shell as we're getting ready to leave, because I have to go home and cook dinner on the grill off the beach. And I'm like, come on, come on, come on. What are you doing? What are you doing? So here's the other thing. And everyone listening that is a parent, that has children, that are curious, and you're not so curious because you're driven like me, right? You're not as creative maybe as Joanne here. I get it. We're the spectrum, right? So I understand that. So even hopefully after listening to this show, that it gives us an opportunity to pause and say, oh, they're picking up that shell. Okay, breathe for 20 seconds. Let them talk about the shell as you walk to the car, right? So we could still get our objective done. But I really hope...
You don't have to, right. You don't have to have the answer in the field guide right then and there either.
That's right.
You could certainly bring that shell home, talk about why, think about the mathematical and the patterns that exist within shells. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing. So there's all of the subjects within that, but you don't have to feel pressured. I have to have the field guide right then and there, like the perfect, outing for the day. You could take the shell home and then research it and look it up. It's really, it's just having that conversation.
Yeah, the conversation could be as simple as, listen, I don't have time now, but I'm loving what you're discovering. Let's look at that tonight after dinner, and we're going to go to Joanne's guide, and we're going to look and explore it, right? But so we can postpone it with the caveat of, let's do it in the time frame that works for you moms and dads that are listening. What are some of the messages or themes that are going throughout the book? So again, I want parents to understand what the kids' themes are going to be learned through these books, through Catherine Grace.
Well, there's tons of themes. So one is, working together to make a difference in others. So, when Catherine and her friends find a family who's in need, they're working together to provide help and resources and service. So there's always going to be that social justice feel to it. We're helping others in need. We're not just alone in our bubble and all we care about is ourselves. So definitely that encompasses that. She does take adventures with her friends, dealing with bullying issues, dealing with all kinds of things, picked last. Not in this book, but the others that are coming. When how you get together with your friends when you were young, and you're like, oh no, they're going to decide on teams, and please pick me. I don't want to be the last one picked. And so things that are constant with children that we see, right? So friendships, what's a healthy friendship look like? What does an unhealthy friendship look like? So helping kids really navigate this very, very uncertain world that is existing in front of us. And if we don't help them navigate, then they're really going to be lost. And I don't want them to be lost. And that's really where my mission is to help them grab the love of learning again, love of life, look around. I mean, so many of them are waiting for someone to help them. And can you help me? Can you open this juice box for me? They're not even relying on themselves anymore. And it's really upsetting, I have to say. And I know it's easier for a parent to jump in and say, just put the straw in. But to show them to make time and show them is really the most important thing.
It's
that
tough.
You need to have.
This is all tough. Exactly what you said.
So,
I've, as you were describing the juice box, it was like, oh my God, just give it to me. We don't have time for this, right? And parents listening, I think, and you as a teacher, because you've been doing this for over 3 decades, right, Joe? You're a little younger than me, but it's over 3 decades now.
100%.
Have you seen I think kids are kids, adults are adults, parents are parents. I think there's, it is from generation to generation, a lot of similarities. But have you seen in the arc of you as a teacher, and I know you're an administrator now, but you're still very involved in the scholastic world. Have you seen a big shift in, just like you were describing, where kids are doing less or kids are less creative, more creative? Like, have you seen a change like that?
We have, and we know that when we have integrated the arts, we've worked with the Count Basie, with the Minds Alliance program, we've worked with the Geraldine Dodge Foundation. When we integrate the arts, that music, that movement, the theater, dance, when they take on the role of a character, when we put the book on the floor and we tell them, step into the story, who are you, right? When they, you know how you used to play act when you were a kid, right? When we expose them to that, it is amazing what we see. When I did a lunch and learn program, and kids were, we were trying to help them learn geometry. By bringing them in and having them use their body and movements to show, intersecting lines or perpendicular, really difficult vocabulary, that movement sparks something. It's like, it's inside of them. It's just a matter of awakening. Let's awaken it already in them. Because if we say, sit there, be quiet, really behave, mommy has no time, dad, we're busy, we're telling them, this is the box I want to put you in. I'm not trying to be mean at all. I'm just saying that they've got to have permission, got to give them permission to be who they need to be.
Yeah. Easier said than done. Yeah.
It's easier said than done. But when they're in that creative flow, when they're sitting there doing something, we don't have to say, oh, that's it. We just have to say, oh, what are you doing? What are you drawing? And we don't have to put any judgment on it. Oh, that's great. I love how you're journaling something. You're getting your thoughts out, your feelings out. It's okay. What happens when you're on vacation and someone's playing an instrument in the middle of the street? What happens?
Everybody stops and listens.
Yeah. They stop. Why? They don't keep moving. They stop, because that's what music does. It heals us. There's something that resonates in us, that we feel the rhythm, we feel the mood. And I just did a training with the NJ PAC. It was the jazz musicians on social emotional learning and culture responsive teaching. And so it's so true. There's zones of regulation that we could help kids say, I don't really know how I'm feeling, but this music is connecting with me. Like, I really get this, like I'm feeling like slow and I'm not sure, or maybe I'm uppity and I'm worried and and so you have to understand that you can't eliminate the arts in the kids. You really can't.
Yeah, super
because
important.
We don't think we're artistic, or we don't think we're creative. We are all creative. Yeah. We sing in the shower.
Yeah.
That's come on. You're using art to relieve stress, to celebrate something. Right. So I want to do that for kids. I want to keep that alive for kids.
Yeah. So I'm going to make you laugh, because my boys, we were driving, I think to the chiropractor, Joe, and I let him plug in, and he liked, it was like Snoop Dogg or one of those like kind of rap things. So I let him hook into the thing, and we put it really loud. And I knew the song, because Snoop Dogg is, old, and he's not that old, but I know up my day, Snoop Dogg was around, and I started singing. Well, I didn't know this, but he was recording me and thought it was hysterical, right? Look at my mom. She knows the words. Look at my mom. We have the music blasting in the car, and I'm bopping and everything. His friends thought that was like the coolest thing. I mean, they probably laughed at me more than anything, but they were like, this was their takeaway. Your mom knew the words. Your mom let you play that music that loud. My mom tells me, shut that crap off. Right? But he was so proud, whatever, or caught me doing something goofy that, they share, right? So you never know. And another question I want to ask, we're almost out of time, but this is really, really important. With the other book, it's been out about a little bit over a year and a half now. Over a year. Mm-hmm. What is the feedback? I'm so curious as to what is the feedback from the parents? Have they allowed themselves to be creative, to stop? Like you said, when you're on vacation, we stop in the street. What's the feedback? I am so curious to this.
The feedback's been phenomenal. The feedback has been like, oh my God, it's like a roadmap. I didn't know what to do with my children. I didn't know where to go. Now I understand how they learn. I understand why that they might need a little journaling or meditation. They might need a little mindfulness, right? So the book has like a chock full of all these wonderful little things. And think about what happened during COVID. People got creative, right? They're
Yes,
doing
they did.
TikTok videos. All of a sudden, they're okay to let down their guard and just be who they're meant to be. And I think that's really what Catherine Grace does for the young kids. Just be you. Let that light shine. And the world is waiting. The world is waiting for you. And so if you don't open up and be who you're meant to be, then the world's at a loss, because you have so many beautiful gifts to bring.
Amen, sister. And here's the thing, what you just said, I hope the adults listening that you just heard what Joanne said. You have to show up and shine your light. And if you don't, holy crap, you're depriving the world of your genius and your greatness and whatever it is that your love, whatever it is that you bring to the table, empathy, right? Sincerity, all of those things that I think are really important.
And we don't have to be so perfect. We're worried of how is that. I'm not really good at that. It doesn't matter. It's just a process you're going through, and you're committing to just being in the moment. Whether it's just, taking that watercolor and just brushing it and just relaxing, listening to music as you're doing it. It's just really about you connecting with something. And everybody has a hobby. Everybody has a side gig that they love to do when they're not at work, right? Or they're interested in doing something that's different, open up our minds. I have a company called Meraki on the Move. And so before COVID, we had like 8 people. We were down by Asbury Park in New Jersey, and 8 people doing meditation and watercoloring. Now I'm having an event October 3rd at the Barn at South Holland in Homedale. I've got over 50 people coming.
Yay, Joe.
Three different crafts. Wonderful. We're going to make a fabric pumpkin. We're going to stencil a little cute little coaster. We're going to hand stitch wool flowers. Over 50 people in less than a year. So it is taking on. I'm excited to bring that to the world. And Meraki is in Greek for doing things you love with creativity, love, and soul. So I'm going to continue this journey, Connie. I'm excited about Catherine Grace, and she's going to help a lot of kids be who they're meant to be. So,
amen. And we need it. These kids need it. The world is tough. Social media is tough. Life is tough at times. And I want to go back about the perfection, and then we're out of time. But I know on the podcast, a lot of other podcasters that I know, and they correct the ums. If they like that deep breath, that sound, they'll eliminate. And it's funny because sometimes at the beginning, I get a little tongue-tied with the quote. I don't know why. Sometimes it happens. And I go, okay, let me re-say that. I'm tongue-tied. And some of my peers say, well, aren't you going to edit that out? And I go, no, because I live in the real world and I get tongue-tied. I could be in the meeting in front of CEOs. I get tongue-tied. Isn't that being human? So no, and the other thing, Joe knows me well enough, it's not about being perfect. It's about being authentic, showing up, and just being you, man. And you're great. So why are we right? Why are we hiding that? So flubs and blubs. And it was so funny. I was on a podcast and he said, okay, just do a little intro for me, Con, so we could post it as like a little teaser reel. Do you know, Joe? I talk for a living. 4 takes. I knew what I wanted to say. I go, well, there's your blooper reel. He was hysterical. I go, do your other guests do this? He goes, no. I go, well, you have a blooper reel now. Like, why? So be you, show up as you, allow our kids to show up as he or she should, or they should. It matters, and shine your light. Joe said it so beautifully. Show up as you, because we don't need anybody else like me or Joe, and be you, we need you. So I really hope this show resonates with you. Please email and reach out to Joanne. First of all, the book, say the book again, give me back.
The book is Catherine Grace Unlocks the Keys. It is available in Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
I will post that link, but give me back my crayons is her other book. That is a really important guide, beautifully written, by the way. You hear how beautifully Joe speaks. The book is equally just freaking amazingly written, and then all of that tutorial is within it for you, for your kids, to navigate and explore. And here's the big word: have fun. Have fun. So reach out to Joanne at Teach4, the number 4, me, Joe, the number 2. Again, I will put this in the show note, but it's Teach, the number 4 me, Joe, J-O, 2 at gmail.com. Please visit her website, which is simply joannocera.com. Again, I will post that. I will post the book link from Amazon as well. Will the give me back my crayons? Will that show up, or they should just Google your?
Yeah, I mean, they can just click on my name, under the author. It'll just show everything
Perfect.
that's under my name.
I want Joe. I think everybody needs all these books. And wait, not because I'm prejudiced and I love her, because she is one of my good friends. That's not the only reason. Truly, the book is life-changing. Everyone, you really just check it out. Trust me, you'll love it. It'll bring fun into your life, and to your kids' life, or my peers, Joe, have grandkids. Oh God, I'm not ready for that yet, right? Yeah, neither are you. Your son just got engaged, so congrats to my Gregory, my smiley bear. Joe, thanks for being on. I'm just so happy.
Thank you, Con,
I love spending time with you always.
Me too. I could talk to you forever. I love it. Thank you for everything you're doing and shedding the light to the world. I mean, you're creating a legacy of just. You're so helpful to so many people.
I
and
hope
this
so.
podcast is just one of the many things you do to help others. So,
well, again, you're a little prejudiced, but I'll take it. Thanks. And seriously, the podcast really is all about changing perspective, not being right or wrong, good or bad, or digging in and judging self. It's all about the opposite, right? The show is really about, hey, I didn't know that. Hey, I never thought about that. What an interesting thought. Let me investigate that a little more. The show really is about curiosity, and I hope everybody approaches it from that framework. And you step right into that in supporting my show's mission. So thank you for that. Always good seeing you, my friend. I love you. I love you. And I hope you will back at you. And I hope you will join me weekly as we build and discover together that it doesn't matter what change you're going through. I hope between my guests and I, the resources we provide, the tips, strategies, our discussions, even if you're not into reading, I just hope we've made you curious to explore ways that you can improve, or improve's the wrong word, embrace whatever that change is. Really go through it and challenge yourself to come out the other side. I guarantee once you challenge your comfort zone, magic starts happening all around, and we have control of that. So embrace it, invite change in, be curious, explore, and just love it, because I love having you showing up every week, and so appreciate that you're on this journey with me of change. And again, I hope that all of my guests, myself, and our ideas and strategies are useful. Otherwise, you know what? What am I doing here? So I want to always make sure I come from this place of love, care, and respect for you. Thank you so much for being on this journey. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Joanne, for a great show. I love you all, and I'll see you next week. Thanks a million.